Hey, welcome to the third installment of the wildlife painting class, and we're gonna take it from where we left off. My name is John Catalfamo, and I own Albany Fine Arts. This painting class is going to be covering this piece of it is going to be covering to setting it up and learning how to paint fur and how to finish up the details, doing the eyes and all the details of the animal. I hope that you've enjoyed it so far, and let's get started. Okay. So I've got five colors here that I've got on my palette. So first, I have a cadmium orange. I have a burnt sienna. I have ochre, a yellow ochre, the white, and then I use a dark burnt umber or any dark brown that you want will work fine, just to get those dark colors in. The first thing you need to do is we need to get the dark tones in that we're going to paint over the top, because in order to do the hair, you start with your dark tones and the light tones on top. So you build the color. So the light tones are the last tones that you put on. So that's why we've done this kind of painting around to fill in, and so you know where the hair is going to be. You know where the dark sections are going to be. So we can pre-think, we know ahead of time where each piece is going to go, okay? And so we're building layers on, right? So in order to do hair, you have to start with that dark tone. So I'll start with a section, just to give you an idea. So the first thing is you need a little bit of brown, the dark brown, which is that burnt sienna and the dark brown. A little bit of the yellow ochre, and some of the orange. All of the colors combined. Kind of muddies it up a bit, so it's a background color. You want it to be a darker brown, because you're going to put the lighter colors on top of it. You don't want it to be the darkest. That you can put it later, but you want it to be pretty dark. So use a good amount of the darker brown and kind of darken it up good. And then the lighter areas are going to be a little bit lighter brown that we're going to do. We're going to leave the white where it's going to be white, because it's hard to cover the dark color with white on top. So you just do the areas that you need to do with that darker color. So then you start in each section and you paint in those darker colors. So you don't have to worry about a lot of detail at this point, because you're really creating the areas where the hair is going to go. So you're just going to kind of get those strokes in and get that darker color in. And at this point you're creating the base for the hair. And each one, and I'm not working wet on wet here. I'm working a little wet on wet, but not all the way, you know. I'm going to let it get wet, but I'm not going to let it all the way. I'm going to have some of it be wet. This has a little bit more of the orange in it later, so I'll go back in again and put some other color into it. So with each section, you do the same thing. Just kind of go back and forth with your brush, creating that section. And wherever you see the dark colors, where you're going to have your dark color start, into the hair, into the ear. Here. So you just go over the entire thing with your first color, and then you come back and you do the in between, the oranges and the whites, and then follow through with the next layer. It's all about layering. And we're using that same brush, the same size, the flat. We're not going to go to any other kind of size brush because we really don't need to change it at this point. Now remember, since we did that coat in the beginning, we don't have to worry about covering the canvas because we've already covered the canvas with that first coat. So there's already that layer there. Now, you notice that in the original, there's that white, and I have the original painting. You can see there's the white near the eye. So you want to keep in mind not to cover the white. And I've done this so many times, I know, but this is the first time for you. So this area and this area, there's more white. So you want to kind of stay away from that with too much. You want to kind of just a little bit kind of go around it and then leave this. Then you come back in here, you can start working in this area. And the hairs would point up. So you're doing an angle. Just so you remember the angle of the hair. Nope. We're going to get all those in, and then we have some darker tones here. And then the hair gets dark up top, so it builds the bottom of the ear. And then we'll kind of get this here, just to get the shape in. And then there's dark that comes down in here to the mouth. So there's a darker color in here. And you're going to fill that in with an even darker color later. But we'll just kind of start it. And then we have we want to get the top part of this nose, the darker colors in here to show the shape of the nose. And then we have more dark here. Now this goes down, and then you have this one here. Got the direction of that fur wrong. And you just get your darks in. Now this has more of a lighter tone. In the painting, this is all whites, so it shows a different kind of a lighting that lights against that fur. So you have to watch that. But there's darks in that too, but not as much. So we just kind of follow the angle of the fur. And then we have another piece of hair that's going to kind of change its direction, like that. That gives that turn, see? And then the hair on here does the same thing but rejoins. So the hair always rejoins these stripes. They kind of rejoin as you get through. And there's another curve here. And you can see how we're creating that look. And that's the basis of it. That's the basics of it. And then the mouth and that fur kind of connect to create that line. And we have a couple of here. And then we have this. And then there's that gives us our basics, and then we fill in. Now you're not going to be able to do this as quickly as me, and that's okay. Take your time, pause the video, and fill in all the pieces, and then start it again. There's no rush. Everything can be done quickly when you get a little bit better, but at first, you know, it's going to be slow. And you're just going to line the little areas that make the nose. That's it. You're just kind of making a little line. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you'll make it more accurate later, you know. So you have the nose goes up, and this kind of piece here, and then there's another piece here. And that's the basics of the nose. It's not everything. And then at this point, you're going to get a line brush. You know, the little thin line brush that you need. Wet it, and you can get those little areas better with that. So this one has to come around, and then there's a piece here, and we get that in. We're just kind of identifying these little pieces. And then you want to show the line of the nose here. You have the eye, and lining the eye is very important to get that really well, because you won't have a real eye. The eye, a tiger's eye, has a certain look and shape, and if you don't get it right, it doesn't look right. See, that's the first step. You can pause the tape if you want to at this point, because we have the next color to get into. I'll finish up here, or you can watch till the end if you want to. It's up to you. Whenever you feel like pausing, you can. This is a good time to do it. So there's I think that's just about it, and then there's here, yeah. And then we go into the next color. Now that we have the basis in there, now we're going to go in and we're going to just use another collection of colors that's going to get us our lighter tone. because we want to fill in the area in between with a background color that we can put hair over the top of, you know. So that's basically what's going to happen. So we're going to add more of the yellow, more of the orange, and then a chunk of white. And that's going to lighten up our color quite a bit when we mix it all together. And when you add it all together, you get kind of a brown mud, a little darker maybe. You know, the yellow ochre and the darker brown and the orange, but you want it to be lighter, so you add a little more of the white. And this is where you're putting the background in to fill in the orange over the top. So you want this to be a little darker, but not as dark as the rest of it. So you don't use as much as that dark as much of the dark brown as you did before. And let me take a look and see so you can see the difference in the color. It's more of a lighter color. It's got more yellow in it. And then what happens is now you want to fill in some background to do the other hair. So from where you were, it might be a little bit light, maybe a little bit lighter. So you're going to do is you're going to fill in those light areas now. So you start filling in. And you know, like in the nose, it's going to be lighter in the middle than it is on the edge. So you use this color on the edge. You see that you see the brown through it, you know. I'm really just creating a background. And each section has its own coloring, right? So then I'll do this piece, see? And then I'll take a little white and I'll make a lighter color. And then on top of these light colors, you know, so you add a little orange in it because you want to keep that orange look to it. And then you have that lighter color. So now you've got an even lighter color, you know. So what you're doing is you're making the dark, light, and lighter. You know, you're creating 3 different values. So now to create that the light part on this, on top of that, we're going to highlight it. And as we go, we get lighter. Then even lighter. And then on top of that, and then later on we'll go back in with a pin brush and we'll get really light, and that's how we'll get the highlights and then the orange. So now you go into where it's really light, which is here, because it gets light toward the tip of the nose. And then it's lighter even toward this side of the nose. So we're creating that real lightness on it and giving it a highlight. Then, from that point, you step it up even more with just white and a little bit of it, and that's when you get the look of hair. Pretty much using mostly the potassium white at this point. So it really brightens it up. Now you've got that brightness going around the nose. It creates that look to it. And you go further and you keep adding that white. And then now you brush out the brush. the rest of the color, and you go in with the white itself. And that's what creates the fur look. And then you use the dark colors to bring out the darks even more. But you create your base first. So now I have to have more light up here. And there's more light on this side of the nose. And then he has a very bright end of his nose. And now we come back with the darker colors to make it look more like him. So you're building the colors as you go. At this point now you go back to a really dark, or the darker browns. You don't want to go too dark, but you do want to have it be darker than everything else. So then you end up going back to the darkest value, see? Which is basically the dark brown and the sienna, and that usually gets it. Maybe a little yellow ochre, soften it up. But you want to stay the darkest. Then you find your dark areas that really need to be darkened up, and that's here. And then you kind of build that shape. And so all along here, there's like a little bit of darkness that frames the nose. And then you create that shape. And then there's like little bits of hair that you can kind of add in there. So you're kind of creating the idea, you know, what's going on here, and you want to kind of show those little strands of hair, and that's basically it. You know, now the rest of it, and then there's that orangeness to it that you want to add. So then, from the top, we get the orange, a little white. And then you add the orange in on top. And that's what gives it that orange highlight. You're putting your really good colors in, you know, on top. That's where they're going to show up the most. And a little bit of other color inside them, and, you know, which is going to give the animal the right color. Because he has like orange fur. It's just its color. You want that vibrant color. Okay? Then on top of that, I usually do kind of a even more bright orange. Then I go into that white and I lighten it up. Try to keep the orange in it and lighten it up. And I get more highlight in that. You want to do light orange. And so we have a little bit more here. And then we're going to have a little bit of in here a little bit. And so that's how you get that look. And it creates the shape. Then the last step to doing hair and doing it right is the darkest color. And that's when I add my darkest color. It's all that dark brown. With a very fine pin line brush, I add some dark hairs in the midst of that to really bring out them dark sections. And then we have a couple of other, see how you can always get that realism when the brush is being put over the top of those light colors. And now you're getting that more realistic look, you know. And the other thing is, down at the bottom by the base of the nose, it may be bright, but there's a little bit of a dark color right at the tip edge of the nose. And you can do that by just a little bit of dark. Kind of frames the nose, and then it goes up to the side. And that's going to frame the nose. And darken it in here just a little bit. And that's the basic nose, the first part of it. You know, and you're going to add little bits of dark because, you know, hair doesn't grow all the same way all the time. There's always that little bit of imperfection, you know, in fur. And there you have it. And then on top of this, for the highlights, to really bring out the whites, same pin line brush on top. Keep hitting my canvas. And you use your white. Straight Tathian white, that's the way I do it. I find those highlighted areas. It's really white. And I put the white in. And then you have some other lights. It shows the striping in the animal, see? And I just add that little bit of white in. And it brings in those little bits of highlights to really liven it up. And there's a light that goes right up on the edge bridge of the nose here. The fur has a highlight there. Oh, that's a mistake. There. No big deal. See, and that's the basis for the fur. And if you get real close, you can see, if I can get it out of here, you can see the detail of it, and it really brings out. And then as you go, you get even more, you know, detailed into it. So it's about adding more of those highlighted colors to bring out the fur and the line work. And you're gonna go in and you get more. You just kind of go as you go, and you just keep bringing in more strokes. The more water you use, the more the flow of the brush is going to go. So you want to pay attention to that. And then, you know, the reason the animal is more orange, so using that straight orange is the other trick. After you've done your work, to add those colors in, you get it more orange. This is on top. So this side is darker, but I want to see more orange in this. I want it to have that color for the animal. So I'm following the darker colors and using these other colors in the areas where I know that it would be darker, but it would show the bright colors. that. And that's the basic way of doing this fur thing. You have to keep in mind the direction of the fur too. Now there's a dark area here, but then it gets lighter toward the end, so then you get this more white again. You want to keep using orange, but you want it to be lighter. And remember to keep adding a little water so the paint will move. So then you're going to go closer to the white on top, and it will blend it. And you don't have that weird there's to it. And then it's the same thing in other areas. Going to use that same medium color. Just start a little lighter. And you want to get these areas to show up, you know. So from here, you're going light to dark, and you're going to go right over the top of this. Each one on each piece. And that's going to bring the color down. So you're building to a lighter color. So on top, because hair doesn't go, you know, really dark to really light really quick. It does it gradually. And you stay with the same direction of the flow of the hair as you go. And you're creating that shape. And then the lighter colors would go on top. And then I would just follow through all the way through the entire thing. So there's another dark bead of fur, because there's two, there's a third one here. So I gotta go back to my dark again. I missed a piece. And it goes all the way down. Not a big deal. It's an easy thing to fix. It gets dark again here. And you see how you're creating that same feeling, you know, and then it goes down again and it brings that light color in again. And so then we go here. We keep introducing the orange because you don't want to lose the color. So then you go in. And if the paint is still just a little bit wet, it's going to blend better. And that's how you get the shape, the first part of it, and then you bring in your orange and your white afterwards. And I'll show you that. We'll do that real quick. And of course, then I'll let you finish up and get everything done. Because it's the same throughout. You're just making these two colors and you're adding them together. It's just an up and down motion, and that's it. There's really nothing more to it. It's a very simple part of it. This is the first step. You know, and then you just go through the entire piece. Now the next thing to do on this, which you do later, I'll show you on this one, because I want to have more orange and I want to have the white. So at this point, I want to define the white, and then I want to define the orange. So there's orange at the top, and then the white is kind of highlighting, right? So I'm going to take that straight orange color. Because we want hair strokes, right? We don't want just blotches of color. So then from this, you just go back over it with some orange. And it's not going to cover everything. It's just going to put orange in there. And it's going to, let's see, at the top. So this has like orange in it here. And then it'll, that. Then it's the same thing here. Then on top of that is where you do the white to bring in that really light color. Just a little bit of orange in it. And then that bottom piece, right by where the hair meets, where the dark and the light meet, you're going to put that little bit of hair. It's going to bring it out and make it, you're seeing that, that striped, you know, and then above again, it goes in. So you're making the hair strokes on top. And then below again, it does it again. But here there's like a sploosh of white. And then it changes direction of the hair again as you get down here. You just kind of change the direction. And you see how you get that. And then up above at the top, again, way up here, you have the white again. And of course you'd have to put more orange in at the top. I'm just showing you how you would get that look. And so, and then as you go, you're adding more white, and you're gonna brighten it up, and you're gonna add dark later, and that's how you get that dark fur look. So you come back in with the dark again, and this time you're not adding any color to it, you're just doing it solid, dark, with that burnt umber, that really dark burnt umber. And you're gonna highlight those dark areas. You know, you're gonna bring those back. That's what gives the hair that realistic look, because you're coming back in again. And you're creating that striped look. You can see how you're getting that change in the direction there got me a little bit messed up there. You can always fix it, you know, there's no change his direction there. And then there's no orange at the bottom. It's just a white. So that's where you're creating that look. And then back again with the white, and you're building it up each time. More and more, you're building it up. Now you go in with the white, almost completely white, just a very little bit of color. And you put those little highlights in. Not a lot, just a couple of places. Just accentuate where the light is hitting the fur. See, same thing here. That is the first section. Now you got this white beard that goes around this lion's mouth, and then you have it comes out here, and there's like this white section that comes up, and it goes all the way up. And then it's dark in the back, so you can always make corrections as you go. You know, this is really basically all there is to it. And down here in the middle by his chest, and then it's all white in here. There's a lot of white fur that comes down, and we're just going to kind of fill it in a little bit. We're not going to worry about it just yet. It's white in there. We're going to add some other colors on top. And then that, and then in between here, there's like white here, white here, white here. And get those in there. And that's the basis of it. You know, that's really all there is to the first part of this. You're just adding those little bits of color. You're bringing it out. You're bringing out the shape, and you're telling the story, and you're adding these colors. Now the tongue doesn't have any shape yet because it's just very light colors. We want to bring it in. So that same orange. What I do, add a little bit of that yellow ochre to pale out that orange. You get kind of an almost pink color. And because the tongue is going to be really dark, I like to add just that in, and then I'm going to add a little red into it. So I paint the whole thing. And we'll get that color in there. This is as dark as the tongue will get in certain areas. Maybe a darker highlight here and there. Just paint that right in. You want to get the shape of the tongue, so we're going to do that. We get that color as our outer color. That's our dark color, right? And then it's got kind of a highlight on the edge, right? So we get it all filled in. Then we're going to add a little bit of white to this color. And we're going to have a highlight that we're going to add to it, to this pink, right? We want to highlight this. We want to get some light on the edge so it has shape. So we're just going to kind of follow the contour again and again. And that's going to give us our shape. And then even lighter. And we're going to really highlight the edge. And a little bit down here. And here. And now in the center, there's another highlight because it kind of has a bump in the middle. Right? And then from there, you're going to use the white highlight and black around the tongue to really bring out the tongue with that dark fur. And that's where it really starts to look more realistic. Because there is darkness that's coming around it, so we have to bring that out. And that's all I do is I kind of bring that dark around it. Just a little bit. Follow the shape of the tongue. And just kind of dab it in there, you know. I'm having a hard time doing it at that angle. And we'll get this in, and I'll show you. Once you have that surrounded, it brings out the tongue more. You can see it more, and then you want to give that darkness later on with highlights of white that will go over the top of it. So you're going to bring that down. So all these strokes, they help us later on. You know, the more you follow the contour of the shape with those strokes, it helps you as you go. And then the secret is to come back with white to highlight, right? You do a lot of mixing and a lot of washing and changing colors in the process. You can do it at your own speed, or you can take your time. There's absolutely no reason why you can't. So now you want to highlight this tongue. We'll just put a couple of highlight marks on it to show that it's got a shine. And that shows the shine of the tongue. There's a little highlight on the edge of where it bumps out. And then you want to get the other section so that the white jumps up into it. So you don't have this big black thing going around the tongue. And this is kind of a mane on his jaw of the animal that shows the shape of his jaw. So this is important. Get that in there. You can see, like, I'm just kind of building it in each spot, not, you know, I'm just getting the colors on top. I'm not being real particular about perfection. I'll get that later when I come in my other colors. And so you're building each section one piece at a time. This thing has kind of a white on the end here that comes off the animal. And then you have a brighter orange toward the animal more that creates the shape of this animal. So we're going to take this orange and we're gonna so that gives it that kind of darker orange. And then you have other colors coming out. And that's what creates the jaw of the animal. And you can see how we're creating that shape, and as we go, we're building it up. And so now we need to kind of keep going. We're gonna get that orange in. There's a white in here too we're going to put in, but right now it's not. Because that white highlights that color. We want to have that in there. This is got to be more up here more. And we're going to get some white in. And we'll get this here. And then this. And then the white is on here because the light's on this side and it's shining on the animal this way. So you want to put the light on the outer edge. So you want to get the dark in first. So that's why we put the dark in against the brown. So it's dark orange first, then lighter colors. So we would have a darker orange here. Create that. Same thing here. I don't know what we're going to do up on the top yet. And then here. So we have brown, and then we have again, and then here, above that, so then we have another one here. That creates the shape of the hand. Oh, drop my brush. No, wait, look at me. Let me get a little clean up here.